Rand Paul, Mike Lee, some of the guys you're seeing in Congress, they have the solution. It is freedom and responsibility. Maximum freedom and maximum personal responsibility. This is really, really easy because freedom really is action. You have the freedom to act. You have the freedom to light a fuse. You have a freedom to eat too much cake. You have the freedom to make bad loans if you're working in a bank. However, you have to then take the responsibility because with every action is a reaction. That's the responsibility part. You have the freedom to light a fuse, man. But you have now the personal responsibility of the bomb that explodes. You have the freedom to eat too much cake, but that means you have the responsibility to live with the reaction of getting sick or looking like Tubby. You can make bad loans, but you go out of business. And it's not my fault. If you make a bad loan, you go out of business. But see, what we've done is we have erased all of this. And we've said there is no reaction to the action. That's the problem. So what does freedom look like when there is no responsibility? Well, it looks like Greece. You can have everything. You can have unlimited vacation. You don't have to work hard. You don't even have to show up. We'll pay you. We'll let you retire when you're 51 years old. It looks like Greece. It looks like Egypt. It looks like Cyprus. And it also looks exactly like what the global left has been orchestrating for years all around the globe, remolding the world nearer to its heart's desire. And you heat it up. And you heat it up with the natural reaction, because there is a natural reaction. There is responsibility. And because the responsibility has been scapegoated and put onto somebody else's shoulders because it allows you to continue to believe you're living free, it ends in total control. Because it ends in civil unrest. Because you're pissed off. You've been told you're free and you can light the fuse, eat too much cake and make bad loans and live in houses that we can't afford and everything's going to be fine. Whose problem is I did my part of the bargain. Where'd it go wrong? It went wrong because you were lied to. There is reaction to these things. And so the last piece doesn't become responsibility, it becomes blame. I did these things, and now it's bad. Who do I blame? Well, you. And it will come back to you, because it's freedom to blame. People have too much freedom. They should have known not to light the fuse. Cyprus and other European countries are now burdened with taking responsibility for the poor choices of their people, their government, their banks. They bought into the lies. Just as we're faced with the consequences of shoddy behavior of ourselves and our banks in '08. Just before the financial crash, we all had the freedom to say, that doesn't make sense. You're going to give me what kind of a loan? And the banks had the freedom to make the deal they wanted. But when they collapsed and when we collapse, you now have to take the responsibility. But instead of taking the brunt of the consequences, we look for someone to blame. Well, that's not freedom. That's Cyprus. When you're being forced to give up 30 or even 40% of your assets, you look for somebody else to blame. You'll make them to pay it. I'm not going to pay it. You see, what they're saying down at the bottom is, You told me I could do these things without any reaction. Well, I played by the rules. That's what they're saying. I played by the rules. I lit the fuse, I ate cake, and I made bad loans. You told me I could. Well, soon what has already happened elsewhere globally will happen here with Obamacare. Can we turn this around, Eileen? I can't. When we are forced to pay for the lifestyle of others. The other way, Eileen? Oh, there it is. Yep. When we're forced to pay for the lifestyle of others, we are going to, this is what's happening. When people know they can get away with, anything, somebody else has to pay for it. For instance, Jack. Jack works hard. Jack lives a clean life, he helps others, and he plays by the rules. He's over here building a place for the, so he can have the well and the bucket, and they can all fall down the hill and break his crown. Okay, great. He's working hard. But Jill, she doesn't work. She doesn't work. She lives off Jack. She smokes, she drinks, and she has too many kids, and they're protesting we're the 99. Well, when Jack has to pay for Jill, the first thing he's going to do is say, wait a minute, that's not fair. That's not fair. Why am I paying for Jill? What is she doing? Well, she's... Okay, all right, well, if I have to pay for her, the first thing, she can't smoke. She can't drink. She we have to make sure she doesn't have any more kids. That sounds like Bloomberg. And that's exactly why Bloomberg is doing it. Because somebody has to pay for her having a heart attack, from her cancer treatment, from her alcoholism. They have to pay for rehab, and it's Jack. And Jack is pissed. You know what this is? You've heard this before. This is not freedom. This is, as long as you live under my roof, you will follow my rules. That's what it is. That's why Jack and Jill moved out of their house at 18. We wanted freedom. We wanted to chart our own course. We didn't want to live playing by our parents' rules. That's natural. That's good. But with that freedom comes responsibility. But now, strangely, so many Americans want to crawl back under that roof. Whether that's Obama's roof or Bloomberg's roof or the faceless, nameless IMF, take Egypt. We're seeing what happens further down the road. When you separate freedom with responsibility, if you take them and split them apart for too long, well, then violence and unrest. And it's just the beginning here. This is just the beginning of it. But, conveniently, there's somebody else. There's somebody else. You see, when Jack is really pissed off and he can't take it anymore, and there's a whole bunch of Jills, then you have to have somebody up here. It used to be God. But now it's the government. And the government will say, Jack, don't worry about it. We'll protect you. We're going to have roughly, according to the FAA, roughly 10,000 active drones in 5 years over the skies of American cities. That's great. Universal principle. Freedom cannot exist without responsibility. There cannot be action without reaction. Those who want to control every aspect of your life, they will tell you that there is no reaction to your action. And they will bring you in seductive ways. Oh, your life is going to be so much easier. You're going to have more stuff. You're going to have more time. You're not going to have worries. All of our children are going to be safe. There's no boo-boos. Nobody will ever fall down. We're all going to be smart and strong. And they will entice you by thinking that you can have the good part, the action, without ever having the reaction. You'll never have to face the things that are not appealing. But the relationship between the two are as inseparable as lighting the fuse on a rocket and that rocket lifting off. When you separate them, when you try to convince people that those are not related, it always ends badly. And it always ends in somebody forcing you. Because at some point you'll go, That rocket, I push this button, and every time I push that button, a rocket like that goes off. And pretty soon you're like, this makes that work. So somebody has to get stronger and start lying to you and convincing you and running propaganda saying, that button has nothing to do with it. If you only have freedom without any responsibility, or vice versa, one person, like Jack, will always be burdened with all of the responsibilities resulting from another person's actions. This is something that Hayek wrote about in his book, Road to Serfdom. He wrote, freedom to order our own conduct is in the air, but the responsibility for the arrangement of our own life according to our own conscience and to bear the consequences of one's own decision are the very essence of any morals which deserve the name. You have to bear the consequence. Point of the book, Road to Serfdom. And when you have serfs, the lords of the manor never have to worry about the consequences because they're so far apart from the serfs. And what do they care about the serfs? Oh, well, soon you'll care because the serfs will rise up and then there'll be a struggle for power. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing today. How it ends really depends on you. Today, the left loves to talk about freedom. But boy, they hate talking about responsibility. Free birth control. Well, how about no sex? Are you crazy? What kind of a hate monger are you? Free drugs. Well, how about not doing drugs? What? That doesn't work. Just say no to drugs. Free food. How about working? Oh, you hate monger. Free education. How about higher scores? The freedom to provide loans for people with no credit. No credit whatsoever. They don't even have to show an ID. And they avoid the cause and effect of their actions. And when faced with the natural consequences, they don't want any of them.